Oh, we're live, and I haven't even got the start menu going, so apologies. I will get intro going now. So hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the 1 Point Safety Show with myself, Scott Hartley, and my illustrious co-host, Scouse Andy. How are you, mate? You all right, buddy?
Yeah, I'm okay, man. I'm all right. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Yeah, a bit delayed, but apologies for that. Just work's kicking my ass at the minute and just, getting it out and about. So it's
needing
been one of them. So.
Needing one of those 10 shits.
Needed one of those. Must have been. Maybe that's what it was. I wasn't on the toilet for all those listeners, if you know. But yeah. So apologies for the delayed start. So all good. What we'll do, we'll start always, Scouts, with our sponsors. So Dunstable Town FC Talk of the Town podcast is our affiliate podcast. We sponsor them for the up and coming season. And if you are into non-league football, please go and download their pod. They are Talk of the Town podcast, and they also have a YouTube channel. So go and like and subscribe to that one. And we're also sponsored by Oddballs, and you can head across to myoddballs.com. And if you have a look at that, you'll be able to find various different apparel on there. It's for cancer charity. Very good site. We appreciate them sponsoring the pod. And we're looking forward to a long, successful partnership with them. And they should have our merchandise on very soon. You can also buy any of the pod merchandise, if you like, from www.onepointsafetyshow.com. On there, you can find some caps, some apparel from the show. If you really like it, go ahead and be a bro and download something. Shout out to Darren Hafferley, who bought himself a cap. So thank you for doing that. We very much appreciate that. On to the news then, mate. A couple of hires, which is quite good. And we'll talk about them because people have asked questions on it as well. So Rod, who's in the chat, Darren, who's in there. He's always said, nice hat, Scouse. Yours will be coming very soon, mate, I'm sure. Brian as well for joining us in the chat. Appreciate you all always being here. And thank you for being with us. So to start us off, the Commanders have hired exec Brandon Sosner as Senior Vice President of Football Operations. He's worked with the Lions for the last 2 years, held the role of Senior Director of Football Admin. And in that role, he oversaw Detroit's strategic planning and management of the salary cap. The club's chief contract negotiator. He's reporting directly to Adam Peters, the GM, and he'll be the club's lead contract negotiator, overseeing a number of football departments as well. So he includes analytics, health and performance, and football administration, as well as being the club's liaison with the business operations. And he'll also play a major role in strategy around roster construction, the salary cap, and the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement with the NFLPA. What are your thoughts on this hire then, Scouse? Obviously, the title of the show is Building a Legacy, and that's not just on the field, it's off the field in coaching and in the front office by the looks of it, mate.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, these guys have got the experience and these guys know what they're doing. I mean, you can see the progression for Detroit over the past, 3 years or so, 3-4 years. They were a bit like us, in the doldrums for such a long time, not a very good team. And then all of a sudden they started to win more recently. And I think, all their plans came together. Now I think we've got, is it 2 Detroit guys now we've got that we're taking from them?
Lance Newmark. I've got a down on my piece of paper, if you can see. I do my research and my notes.
Yeah.
I've got,
I just ring at me, you know what I mean? But the thing, I think I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this hire. My only concern about these things, though, is can you have too many cooks in the kitchen?
I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Because they're making up all these roles, and it's great. And don't get me wrong. These guys have experience. They know what they're doing. They're obviously good hires. And obviously, Josh mentioned when he first started, he wanted to, surround himself and add him with the best people. And it's exactly what he's doing. And he's willing to put his hand in his pocket to get these guys here. Because these guys aren't going to be cheap, man. Their wages are going to be through the roof. Because why would they leave otherwise? Why would they leave a Detroit who's doing really well?
Yeah, exactly.
it's got to be obviously the opportunity of maybe a little bit more of a promotion, maybe a bit more kind of a bit more power to a certain extent, and also that's what it's all about, man. So Josh is definitely putting his hand in his pocket for these guys, and I'm all for it as long as they all stay as a cohesive unit and not be all over the gaff. That's my only concern, man.
If we're all off the same song sheet, it's all good. And to be honest with you, stealing execs from other teams that are doing very well is a good thing, in my opinion. Another hire this week as well. We've also named David Blackburn Director of Player Personnel. So I think he replaces the outgoing guy. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. It was last week. It's only last week he left Scouts, and I've forgotten his name already.
Exactly. If you're not here now, if you're not current, it's goodbye. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see you later. Thanks for this. He's been with the Ravens for the last 17 years in Baltimore. He was most recently held the role of Director of College Scouting, and in that role, he oversaw the college scouting process and played a vital role planning for the draft. So this is kind of our guy who's going to head up all of the draft scouts, all of the scouts throughout the whole network that we have throughout the country and abroad. Another fantastic hire. If you're staying with Baltimore and an organization like the Ravens for 17 years, you're doing something right, aren't you? Let's be honest.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, they've been a well-run franchise for decades. So yeah, man, I mean, if anyone we can steal from these good teams, good franchises, I'm all for it. But I say, as long as they stay in check, they don't get too big-headed, too big-egoed, whatever, going outside their remits. I just don't see that kind of crap, because that's what you saw at Carolina last year. A lot of good backroom staff, but they're all fighting each other all the time. Nothing was getting kind of portrayed to the actual team the actual players. So no wonder they do dog shit last year. So I just don't want that to happen to us.
So Deluxe here said, seems like the new positions, but let me ask this: was previous ownership using a skeleton crew to do the work?
Well,
I think they probably were with Dan, and he had one guy that he went to, who's Vinny Serrato originally,
or Bruce Allen,
or Bruce.
They were the guys,
you know what I mean?
They were the guys, and that was basically it. You never heard of these other guys on the sidelines, or these guys doing this, player personnel, or contracts here or there. So it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, Dan Snyder's like, I want to run the show, and you're my little henchman. And then that's basically all it was. And then there was the head coach on the football side. There wasn't really a lot going on the business side, and not a lot going on, in between the kind of GM and the and the staff, and the players. So, yeah, man.
I'll run through what we've got here, and then we'll answer Rod's question, and a couple of others have put questions. I think Deluxe and Rod actually put questions on this, so I'll go through them anyway while they're here. So our executive management, which is football operations, we've got Adam Peters as general manager. Brandon Sosner is the next person on the list as senior vice president of football ops. David Blackburn, he's director of player personnel. Lance Newmark, assistant GM. Martin Mayhew, senior personal executive, advisor to the GM. Rob Rogers is still there at the moment, senior vice president of football administration. But I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of gets moved on, because his remit, as we've talked about before, was kind of the cap guy, administering, looking at the administration of how we're spending the cap, roster construction and all that. And from what I read out from Brandon Sosner's role, it seems like he'll be taking that on. So don't be surprised if he's kind of moved out, if you like, from previous regime. Eugene Shen, still there, senior vice president of football strategy, but it looks like he will be answering almost to Brandon Sosner, because Brandon Sosner's taking over the analytics department. So I don't know, they're both the same level.
I find that mad, because they brought in Shen thinking that he was going to be running the analytics department. Mm-hmm. And now you've got this guy in whose remit is part of the analytics team. So yeah, you see what I mean? Like there's going to be some grey areas here, some crossover go wrong,
And then there's one other one on here that we did on the 15th of April. I looked this up earlier, and it's David Gardy. Do you remember we talked about him, the guy who got in from the NFL? So he came from the front office working with Roger Goodell, the rules analyst, the guy who's doing in-game strategy, all that sort of stuff. He's senior vice president of football initiatives. He isn't even mentioned or named on the team's website. It's quite worrying. There was one article that said we've hired him as this, and then if you look at the front office and you go on there and you have a look at who's who in the zoo, he isn't there.
Yeah, but what's that? What's initiatives? Are you thinking like going out to high schools, going out to normal schools, try and promote the team?
I think that's more the business side. This is around rules and analysts and what rules have been coming in. Because if you remember, he was like the guy who's put through the hip drop tackle. He's the guy who put through
he's the
changes to the
made the actual NFL rules, didn't he?
Yeah.
So okay.
Then on the players personnel side, you've got Tim Gribble, who's director of college personnel, and Marty Herney, who is an advisor. And then on the player wellness and athletic performance side, we've got Tim McGrath, who's the senior director of player health and performance. So it's a massive change in not just the front. In the front office has been an enormous change. I don't think there's anybody in there, but Mayhew and Herney are still there. Yeah,
the structure's unreal. The structure's unreal.
The structure's ridiculous.
Before. I mean, you mentioned before we had Bruce Allen, we had fake Dan Snyder, we had and this is just like GM type or ownership.
That was it, really, wasn't it?
And that was basically, and then obviously with look at our head of athletics, athletic personnel, whatever the hell you want to call it. The guy got done for drugs. And
he did, yeah.
Vermeil, or whatever his name is, I can't remember his first name, but Vermeil.
Brian Vermeulen, was it, or something like that?
Brian Vermeil? I can't remember. But basically, these guys, it was just rotten to the core. Do you know what I mean? Like, so. I mean, I'm all for this, and it is about building the legacy. I mean, I don't know what Adam Peters is going to be doing soon with all these other guys that they've hired. Is he just going to be smoking a cigar? Is that all he's going to be doing?
It's a bit mad, isn't it? It's about building this legacy, though. And
now, you know what I mean? Overseeing like 30 new staff.
And Rod put it through. He said. Rob put this question through to us. He said, all our positives and excitement about the team, but what about the front office recruitment? It's clear to see that there's longevity and a plan that indicates great recruitment in the future, and at last continuity of a plan and approach across the organization. I mean, if you're taking the positive route, Rod, which I know you always do, yeah, I agree with you. I think that is the way that we go. It is a lot. It's like the coaching staff setup. The way that we set up the coaching is if a person is poached or moves on to somewhere else, to a high executive role or to a head coaching role or a coordinator role, the next man up mentality is there, and the next man up behind is going to take that on. I mean,
and it's going to be good enough as well.
Exactly. And they've been in that system as well. And then you've got head coaches or former head coaches are in positions like that, like Anthony Lynn. You've got Ken Norton. You've got people like Johnson from the Eagles across there, who's just a pass game coordinator. I mean, really? So and the funny thing is, they all want to be on this train now, so they know something clearly that we don't know. And this is it now. You're either on the train now, getting ready for it to leave the station, knowing, hey, this is the start of something special. Because I honestly think that in a year, 2 years, when we're down the line, we're going to have an amazing roster. We're going to be built up well. The front office is going to be a completely different change to what we're used to. Look at the way the draft process worked. That's what I'll take you back to, Scouts. The way the draft process worked, we didn't hear a single thing. No leaks, no nothing. And as you said before to me, if that's Dan Snyder, you already know who we're picking at number 2 overall. That's a fact. That's a straight up fact. And 100%. What we're building behind the scenes is this legacy. And that's why we've obviously called the episode Building a Legacy. But looking at it, I mean, another one here from Deluxe, he said, thoughts on Harris Ownership Group and AP stealing away top execs from successful organizations across the league. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, mate?
I mean, it's great. It's great to see that these guys want to come here. And obviously, Harris does what he says and says what he does, you know what I mean, type thing. I mean, this guy, he's willing to put his hand in his pocket. I'm all for it. Because I say all these guys are not going to be cheap, man. These guys, you're going to poach these guys from high level jobs somewhere else. There's got to be more than just the project that's going to be the kind of inspiration to come over here. There's got to be more to it than that. And I think, Josh is obviously, and Peters they are selling this kind of, plan of action, this kind of like 5-year plan. They're probably got a 10-year plan for some of these staff.
Yeah, maybe.
because these guys are not probably going to go somewhere else, because like Newmark and stuff, they're probably in the 50s now, something like that, age-wise. So he's probably going to be here, for 10 years, something like that, and probably retire. That'll probably be his thing. So some of these guys are coming here as a destination. They're not coming here just as a stepping stone, shall we call it, to something else. I mean, some of the coaches will be. You didn't even mention Kingsbury, but I mean, obviously, he's probably the first guy to probably be poached if we do anything half decent on offense this season coming up. He'll be the first guy to be poached. But then, as you said, you mentioned Brian Johnson come in there and take over that, and go from there and see what I mean. So yeah, man. I mean, I say it's nice. It's nice to see. They're not just thinking now; they're thinking 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the line already. I mean, I'm not even actually at the real under the Peters era. We've not even thrown a ball yet. In any anger, if that makes sense. So, I'm loving it at the moment.
I am too. I mean, in all honesty, it's like it seems to be building on the field with the coaching staff, and then off the field, as you said, it's going back to money, doesn't it? As well, he's clearly putting his hand in his pocket, Josh Harris, and saying, you know what, yeah, I'm willing to invest in off the field, in the front office, to make this place the best place to work within the NFL. I mean, we're poaching people from not just across the league. As I said before, we've got guys who are coming in from the head office, who are coming in from NFL head office, working for Roger Goodell week in, week out. That's where you go when you've done your bit for a team, not the other way around.
Exactly. You don't leave the NFL, do you? Really, you kind of, the guy didn't want to, as in the NFL wanted to keep him. It wasn't like they were sacking him or anything or wanted him out the door. I say we're genuinely poaching high-level talent in their remits. So, I mean, it's I say you can't go wrong with it as long as they stay on track together and be as one, not as 100, because it can be very easily you can get little factions, you can get little cliques, and those things go Pete Tong fast. Do you know what I mean? So as long as Peters can keep that away, because it's natural. It's natural if you're always working with a certain 3 or 4 guys, you're going to be very close, and you're not going to be as close with another guy that you might only see twice a week. You know what I mean? I get that, but it's about kind of making sure that it doesn't become like a bitchy session, in between and stuff like that. And I think that's what Peters' biggest job is going to be with all these staff, because there's so many staff members now that he's going to have to make sure that all these guys are on the same page at all times. You know what I mean? Which is going to be difficult.
I know, and it goes back, doesn't it, to when you think about not just the ownership group, and it is the ownership group. It starts with that, really. I mean, look, if you look around yourself and you said to yourself, right, I'm a young kid coming into college, and I've gone through college, and I'm getting ready for the NFL, and I know I'm probably going to get drafted, or I'm a free agent, but I'm actually a big basketball fan. Oh, look, we've got Magic Johnson. And as you said before on previous shows, who do you like? Oh, I like KD, or I like LeBron. Well, I'll just ring them up, because that's what he's like. He's got that contact in that sporting side of the world. We've also got Josh Harris, who's run franchises before. He's still owner of 2 other sporting franchises, so he knows that side of the game. Then you dig into Adam Peters and where he's come from. Winning culture at Denver, won a Super Bowl. Winning culture at New England, won a Super Bowl. 49ers were in the doldrums of shit. They were pretty poor, and he brought them up with the GM over there as assistant GM. Started off as a scout. So his contact list is going to be pretty endless. And then you look at the coaching side of it and the setup that Dan Quinn's put together, around all of these coaches that are around there. And genuinely, I was all for it. And I'll hold my hands up and say, I wanted Ben Johnson. I was like, yeah, Ben Johnson, he's the number one. That's where we're going to go with him. And when he said no, I was thinking, Dan Quinn? Little bit, not too sure.
Because of the PTSD from the head defensive coaches.
Absolutely. But there was no way in the world that Ben Johnson or Mike McDonald or any of these other coaches who were out there on the coaching block could have brought in the caliber of coaches that we have for this team. Look at Kingsbury. Kingsbury was done. He was a done deal to the Raiders. A done deal. And he pulled out and came here. Now, it's not just about money. It's about other things. It's about working with talent.
Well, when you're at their level as coaches, that is exactly what it's about. It's about the players, but also the kind of the project as such as well. Because they want to make sure they're good. They look good in the media, because the end of the day, most of those guys, their dream is to be head coach. You know, Witt, you mentioned it as his very first thing. He believes he should be a head coach already. Never mind a defensive coordinator like he is now. So, you know, so he's got a chip on his shoulder. Kingsbury's had a shot. Johnson's close, should have had a shot besides, obviously, when all Pete Tong over, you know, at the Eagles. He was made the scapegoat when it wasn't really his fault. So, you know, these guys are hungry as well.
Anthony Lynn's the same. He had a shot at Los Angeles, and it was like, you know what, I want another shot. I want to get there. And as James Lowe's just said, shout out to James Lowe in the chat as well. He's just said off-season back office champions. Absolutely right. Yeah,
as long as you're winning on the field as well this time, rather than the bullshit of we're winning off the field, guys. Winning off the field. No,
I don't want to hear that. And that's the other thing as well. We've got to have a bit of a shout out here and think to ourselves, do you know what? It's all good saying, well, we're winning off the field, but we genuinely are winning off the field. Now, it goes back to the branding, and it goes back to the name, and it goes back to all of that. We don't really, I'm not 100% on board with it. I've accepted it. I'm a fan. That's what we do. You pay your money, you take your ticket, you get on with it. I don't really rate the name Commanders. Straight up, I don't rate it. It's not an amazing name, but it isn't going to change anytime soon. We're not going back to, you know, W's with feathers on and all that stuff. We discussed that ad nauseum last week. But in all seriousness, if you look at what we're doing off the field, we're 33% higher revenue in a year. And that Josh Harris hasn't had his feet under the table for that year. Really, in realistic terms.
No, he kind of let it go, didn't he? The first year was kind of like, okay, Ron, showing what you've got. You know, if you're any good, we might keep you. If you're not, then you're gone. But no, the thing is though about the 33% revenue stream increase. That's not on Josh at all. That's on a couple of things. That's on obviously a new owner. That could have been anybody, not just Josh. But also, you know, the Jason Wright and you know and the things that he had to do over the few years as well. You know, people seem to forget. You know, there's some dodgy conversations that he's had to have with, you know, Snyder was going to stick around. Do you know what I mean? Last minute, and he made sure it didn't happen. So, you know, you got to give Wright a lot of love, man. And also, he's doing his job well. I mean, he's still head. Isn't he still head of business?
Yeah, he is. He's still team president. Yeah, hasn't changed.
As long as he keeps bringing in the money, it's all going to be good for him. So, and 33% increase in 1 year. And I say it's not down to Josh, really. It's just a new ownership type of thing. But again, that could have been anybody. It couldn't be Josh.
I think you're right. There's a bit of benefit of the doubt there, isn't there, as well? There has to be. You know, season ticket increases and all that sort of stuff.
Do you know what I mean? Wright's done a good job, so
he has. But I mean, there's been some bungles. I'll give him that. You know, but I don't think they're all his fault.
Sometimes though, it's you kind of. Like any manager, you're a manager of people. You know, you will delegate things sometimes, and if it goes Pete Tong, then it's obviously your head on the chopping block. But it doesn't always mean it's your fault. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, okay, your fault is the decision making of saying, I let you run with it, and you know you crack on, and I trust you implicitly. You know that you could say that's his fault, but. From what because obviously the biggest one's the Sean Taylor thing, isn't it? That's the biggest, step up, you know what I mean? But that was again, he allowed his daughter, as in Sean Taylor's daughter, to create that from scratch herself. So I can see why he trusted her with it, because at the end of the day, it's her dad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
But obviously, it kind of backfired, and you know all the rest of it. You know, we get it. But so obviously that he won't do that again. But you know, people make mistakes. We all make mistakes, man.
Absolutely. And you've got, and that's what I'm saying. We've got to be trusting. And I've said it. I said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 times again. We just have to be patient. It is going to come to us. It's just going to take time. But as fans, we ain't got time. We don't want time. We want to win now. We want everything.
For decades, man, and that's
25 years, mate. Yeah. Look at my fandom and look at yours. You don't remember. I mean, you probably do remember the last Super Bowl, but
not really.
You weren't
bits. I mean, you know. I was like 8.
I know what you mean. But that's what I mean. But I have never seen winning football in this franchise. And yet we're two blokes from the UK who are on a YouTube podcast with people in the chat talking shit for an hour or so. We chose this team, mate. We chose this team. And you think to yourself, hang on a minute, we could have quite easily chose a team that does a lot better than we are. But you stick with it. And that's the thing. That's maybe that's just the mentality of the British. You have a team, you stick to your team. That's that no matter what. That's how it goes. You never
hate what we call glory hunters, ones who do
absolutely
change teams regularly, even in football or soccer, as we call it, as the Yanks call it. You know, it's you still see those guys. You know, that one minute Chelsea fans, next minute United fans when they're winning, then they're Arsenal fans. Now I can't deal with that, and a lot of people have that mentality over here of like, no, you're just a glory hunter. Your opinion doesn't mean shit because you're just following the best team at that point. Where a true fan is a fanatic of that team. Do you know what I mean? That's what fan means. Fanatic. You are fanatical about that team. So you are gonna kind of, you know, you're gonna pour your heart and soul into it, good and bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's why people like us are feeling the pain, you know, for 20 years or whatever. 15 years of your fandom or whatever it is, and it's just kind of like, man, you know, it's we're so desperate for actually a team that can be successful, but not just a one-off season. Like we've seen one-offs, we've seen one-off season to get playoffs, and then we obviously blow it in the playoffs. But that's not what we want to see anymore. We want to see consistency at the top and being up there all the time. You know, like a Kansas, like the fucking Eagles. You know, these teams. We want to be like them. We want to be up there and be regular winners.
Your brother's done you here in the chat. He said Andrew had no choice. Lol, that's on me. Absolutely right.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You know, you picked me up just when at our prime, and then we died off pretty fast. I'm blaming you.
It's all your fault, Ian.
I'm blaming you, bro.
I got no one to blame. I mean, honestly, I support three.
You got RG to blame for you've got.
RG. It's all your fault, Robert. It's all your fault. But no, in all seriousness, I've got these. I've got a rugby team in the Premiership in English football, English rugby that never won a single game all season, and then my football team's just been relegated to the bottom tier. So happy days. It's all great.
You're not wrong, man. I mean, you know, there's a lot of bandwagon in the DMV. Yes, I can't deal with those kind of fans. I can't deal. It's like me. You can't be a Baltimore fan just because the Skins or Commanders have been shite for decades. No, you can't do that. Like for me, it's ingrained. It's like no, you just can't do that. You know what I mean? I just don't. I hate fans who do that because they're not fans. Because if they switch to another team, that means they're not fans. They're not fanatical about that team. So you're not a real fan. You're just a kind of a fake, or what we call in England plastic fans. You're plastic. So no.
Prawn sandwich brigade.
Exactly. Yeah. Prawn sandwiches, plastic fans. You know, you don't really give a shit about them, really. You know, you don't. You know, it's nice to not have that kind of Monday morning kind of. Oh my god, I feel devastated because we've lost. You know, because obviously they're plastic fans, and those fans just don't give a shit. Oh, we win or lose, that doesn't really matter. As long as we're near the top at the end, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like I can't deal with those type of fans, man. Can't deal.
No, me neither. Previous owner was cheap, would overpay to get Lafamina type and not support or provide resources, including quality people. Completely 100%. Agree with you, Deluxe.
100%. I mean, Snyder's want to save us money all the time, and especially his last kind of say 2 to 3 years of his ownership. He didn't spend fuck all. Let's face it. He really didn't, you know. I mean,
look at the amount of money that's being pumped into Commanders Field, as it's now known. I mean,
yeah, exactly. You know, hundreds of millions have been put into, Commanders Field. You know, old FedEx, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Also, Ashburn. They're putting money in left, right, and centre. These guys, and they know they're not even going to stay at Commanders Field. They want the RFK site. I think it's going to happen. I really do.
I do too.
But again, it's going to be probably 7 to 10 years before we see it actually built, ready to walk into. You know what I mean? So
it's mid 2030s, isn't it? You know what I mean? That's probably where we're going.
That's what I'm saying. 10 years. I think 10 years is a realistic thing of like, because it take about 3 years just to build a thing. So
easy, if not 4, yeah. And then you've got the land and everything else.
And say all the politics at the start and all the rest of it. And obviously there's going to be a new president, I think, coming forward. That's just my opinion.
Maybe.
I think there'll be a new president. In November/January, when the kind of the power takes over in January. And again, I think that's when things will start moving further along again for the RFK site, personally. But I can't wait. I can't wait, man. Everything's so exciting at the moment, but it's different than previous years, because like previous years, you could always say, we got this new player. Oh yeah, we're going to start winning some games. You know what I mean? Like, no. Realistically, you know what I mean? But they are now. You can see it going all the way through now. You can see you can see the real plan of action. You can see from the coaching hires, you can see from the staff hires, and you can see like they're already getting in there, in politics land to kind of make it work as well for RFK. So again, man, they're doing everything that they possibly can. You can see to try and make this a consistent winner, and I can't wait to see it, man.
I agree with you completely. I did see a bit of disrespect, actually. It was the top, I don't know who it came from. I think it was PFF, but it was the top 25 wide receivers in the NFL, and Terry wasn't even on it. I was like, hang on a minute. Have you thought he's consistently 1,000-yard receiver for 4 years? And look at the shit that's been thrown to him. Let's be honest out there.
Let's face it, as good as these quarterbacks he's had. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's only this year that you're going to see a real difference. So you got an actual quarterback who can throw the ball consistently. You're going to see that this year. But again, yeah, I mean, it's an amazing feat just what he's done. I know, he's not a major touchdown guy. I know it's more about the kind of 1,000 yards, and that's amazing. And to be fair, there's only one season he missed out, and he missed 2 games because of injury, and he missed out by about like 80 yards or something. So he would have made that if he was fit for the full season that year. And he'd be like Mike Evans, his first so many seasons, it'd be 1,000 yards every single year. The difference is he doesn't get many touchdowns, which is true, but he gets double teamed in the red zone. This has been the problem. No, if you stop Terry in the red zone, then they're going to go to like, okay, Jahan has been decent, but last year he had a down year. But the other guys are just not going to produce. You know what I mean? Your tight ends are not producing. So as a defensive team, you're thinking, just stop Terry in the red zone.
That's
maybe
it, yeah.
Potentially Logan Thomas, maybe, and that's it. They've got nothing else, and that's exactly what happened to us quite a lot. So,
well, we'll get on to the last bit of news. Then is one preseason joint practice in Miami prior to our preseason game. Even is what I should say. That is, the only one. Dan Quinn came out of Dan Quinn's mouth. He said, "Look, there's only going to be one joint practice." What are your thoughts on joint practices, and obviously on going to Miami to have a joint practice?
I mean, I like to see it, but obviously mentioned for me,
FAO Barda doesn't.
That's what FAO Barda hates them, and I can see his reason why as well. It's all a macho game. You got to show that you're the man in these things, even though it doesn't really mean shit because it's not a game on the line. So people get hurt. I get it. You know what I mean? Like, so I understand it from both sides, but I do think I think it's quite good to have at least one of those because that's where you're going to be seeing your first team play. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to see the starters in any of those 2 or 3 preseason games. If you're lucky, you might get one drive, and that's basically it. Especially on offense, you're lucky to see that at all. So when you're seeing it from a joint practice perspective, then that's where the first team is going to go at each other because again, you want to assert dominance over the other team. So that's when you'll see the first team play, and then in the actual match itself, the actual game itself, you're going to see all the second and third stringers. That's what you're going to see.
Yeah.
So
people have to make a roster, don't they, as well? So
yeah, exactly. So I understand why these guys, get those games, but that's the reason why joint practices are kind of, I think they're quite useful because when you think about it, if you just say you have only one joint practice over a couple of days, okay, that's the first time that your first team offense is together in an 11 versus 11 game. That makes sense. So,
yeah.
so kind of like, well, it's all well and good. You can practice and practice and practice all the time, but it's different when you're taking on external guys who are going 100% at you. And in preseason, you don't see those teams play the first team starters. So when week 1 comes around and week 2 comes around, the guys are still gelling. Do you know what I mean? Because they've not actually had any real cohesion in the game because they haven't played until the first week, as in a full team offense and a full team defense, first stringers. So I get why it is a useful thing to have. So I still like seeing those. I wouldn't want to see 3 or 4 of them, but
I know what you mean.
Maybe 1 or 2, practices for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I like joint practices. I think it puts you up against another offense and defense that you are looking at match sharpness on. It gives you a bit of a measuring stick as well as to whereabouts you're going to be within the season, where you need to work on, what you don't need to work on. I think they're a good thing. But also at the same time, I'm like, are people out there to injure people? We saw what happened last year with, the Ravens, where it kicked off a bit. We've seen it before with Houston years ago.
Who was it that slammed to the floor? Was it Reed?
No, it was.
It was a safety, wasn't it? It was a safety. Was it
safety? It was Sip Christian Holmes, wasn't it?
Was it Holmes who got slammed? I mean, Mark Andrews doing that was just well out of order. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but then we changed the rules. We changed the rules for Mark Andrews.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because he got hip drop tackled. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he ended up doing.
It was Danny Johnson. Thank you, Deluxe. I apologize. It was Danny Johnson. Yeah,
I knew it was a safety.
Nah, man, it's all.
I'm not calling him a corner. He's a safety.
Yeah. Darren, thank you so much for being with us, mate. Appreciate you being on here. If you have to jump out at 9, so be it. But thank you, mate. Appreciate you being on. Shout out to Scott G as well for being in the chat. It's nice to see you again. Appreciate you being on.
Thanks, Daz.
Thanks, Daz. I'm not going to call him that. Darren. It's Darren. There you go. Leave him alone.
Hey, Scott G. Scott G's in the chat.
I know. We missed him.
I missed him.
Yeah, you and him falling out. We've got to talk about OTAs then, haven't we? We've had OTAs this week again, Scouse. We listened to Dan Quinn's interview, listened to a few other players' interviews, people like Bobby Wagner. We've listened to Frankie Louvu. We've had people like Jonathan Allen coming out and telling us how OTAs are going. I mean, I don't know if you've seen much of OTAs. There's an amazing catch from Jahan Dotson down the sideline that was hyped up by Terry, as Rod put in the chat earlier. Very, very good when you watch that back. To me, mate, I don't want to jump too far ahead of myself, but Jayden Daniels looked good, man. He is looking good. That's all I'm going to say. He's looking good. I'm going to touch wood.
It's nice to see. It's nice to see like these nice passes, or it's nice to see these, just nice plays in general. But what you got to understand though is that they're under no pressure. They're not in pads.
Do you know what I mean? Enough, Yams just brought that exactly up.
Yeah,
you're right.
Me and Yam kind of think similar. It's kind of, it's nice. It's nice to see. Daniel's tearing guys up. Yeah, great. But the thing is, he's under no pressure. We know he's accurate. You know what I mean? So we know we can throw the ball decently. People seem to forget the very first pass Daniels did was an interception. So people not mentioning that. They're mentioning always the good bits, which is fine. But again, I take some of it with a pinch of salt. And with Yam mentioned there about he's worried about the D. The thing is, mate, the D is always going to play reaction. So they're always on a disadvantage when they're playing, in kind of practice like we're doing now, OTAs. So I wouldn't be too worried about the corners or the safeties getting burnt at the moment. End of the day, the receivers should beat the corner if it's 1-on-1. They should. It's only when you're exceptional at an exceptional corner you can kind of pull it out the bag regularly. So don't worry about kind of the defense just yet.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I agree with you. I mean, I've enjoyed it this year. I've enjoyed watching them practice. Obviously, we haven't seen a lot because they're still trying to do install. I think when we get to training camp, that's when we're going to see exactly what's going to happen with this team, where we're going to go out. But ultimately, pre-season and season is where we're going to know where we are. We've got to trust them to build this roster to the best of their ability. But I don't want to get too hyped on it, but it looks good so far. It looks good so far.
Yeah, I mean, the Lux mentions here, best thing is the reports that he's actually playing fast and ahead of schedule, learning the offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if it's mentioned in a question later on about John Allen and him.
Yeah, it is.
Is it? Yeah. Okay, so we'll go into more detail there, but there's a reason why I think he's ahead of the game, if that makes sense. And we'll go through a bit later on. Obviously with Brian as well, yes, 7-on-7s are designed for the receivers to win. It is, because the offense knows to play and the defense is playing reactionary. That's just how it is. So the defense is always going to be half a yard behind at this moment for sure. I'd say a quarterback under no pressure should be able to put the ball exactly, especially at this level, should be able to put the ball exactly where it should be put because you're under no pressure at all. So I'd say I'm not worried about the defense just yet. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll move on then, mate, to our fan questions that have been submitted.
One last thing from Richard.
Cool, mate, yeah.
Don't forget
Yeah.
these stunning OTA clips are released to build hype equal ticket sale.
Exactly.
And again, he's not
True.
wrong. You're not going to see the interceptions that he's thrown. You're not going to see those things. You're only going to see the positives. So and again, it's like YouTube, isn't it? You can pick any player and you go highlights, and you'll see amazing things from these guys. And they could be like the worst player in the NFL, but it's still got a highlight reel that looks amazing. Because if you can cherry pick the best plays they've ever done, all NFL players are going to look good.
Of course they are. Here he is, Goats in the chat. Look, he's back. Andy Burrows, shout out to you. You all right, mate? How's it going? Nice to see you. We were late as well, so don't worry. We were 20 minutes late, so apologies for starting off late. We've got some questions that came through to us then. So Cameron McDonald, FK Commanders fan, he said, we question for tomorrow night's pod. He got it in very early. He was in Wednesday. He said, which of the players who left in free agency will be missed the most? He said, personally, I think Samuel.
I mean, let's face it. There's not many guys that you think, oh, my God, I wish we kept him. I mean, there's not many of those guys. I mean, for me, there's two.
Yeah.
Samuel and Cam Kill. They're the only two guys that I wanted to keep on this roster. So, I mean, we'll have to see how good Cam is out in LA. And hopefully that chin can actually, be better than what Cam was last year. Well, for last year, everyone was down. It's a down year, but I'm hoping like that chin, so we don't really miss Cam. So it will be only the possibility would be Samuel to be the guy who we might miss as such. But we've got we've got guys that can do his job, So
I agree a bit with Cameron as well. I would say Samuel was our best wide receiver last year on paper. Facts. There's no doubt about it. He was very productive when he was in the team. But I'll give you two more names. I'm going to go with Kendall Fuller. I think we just need a veteran corner who could be there thereabouts.
We have got a vet that we signed.
I know, but it's a little bit.
Mike Davis.
Well, we'll get onto him a little bit later as well. And the other one that I think we may miss is actually Charles Leno. I don't know if we'll miss him, but
I'm just hoping Coleman's
a spot. Left tackle's a spot. That's it.
Coleman's got it. It's in his hands. He's got first choice at this. As long as he produces in the off season. He could be the start. He could genuinely be the starter there. So
here's one for you then, Scouse. I saw Ian Rappaport put out a post saying that Bakhtiari has been cleared medically, and from what I've heard and from people who were around him, he'd been playing through injuries for the last 2 years. And that they've said this year he is now fitter than he's ever been.
Would you always say that, don't they?
Would you give him the? Would you give him the? Would you give him the deal that Smith got over from the Cowboys going to the Jets? Would you give him a deal?
What did he get for that?
It was just really highly incentive. It was like I think it's like initially like $3 million or something, but the maximum that you can go up to is 20.
Even if you went stupid and went, Bosh, there's a $20 million 1 year deal. We could afford that and not be worried about it.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? So for me, if the guy's healthy, and genuinely healthy, not just being told by Rappaport and other guys that might be blowing smoke a little bit.
That's the problem. That's the problem there, isn't it?
That's why I'd bring him in and do your own physicals on this guy before you even offer him a contract and say, look, man, if you're really interested in playing, come over here, see our guys. Let's rescan your knee. Let's do all the bits and pieces, and let's see where you're at. And if we're happy to give you a decent deal.
Put him through a workout.
Balls in his court, and the guy's good enough. Don't get me wrong. This guy's healthy. This guy's all pro left tackle, and he's not too old either. He's only 32, I think. If he can stay healthy, you could get him maybe another 3 years out of him if his knee could hold up.
But even if you just did a massively incentivized 1 year deal and said, "Hey, we'll pay you a base salary of say $6 million, but it can go up to 15, maybe 18, something like that with incentives if you play the entire season." Richard, I agree with you.
It's hard that one though. It's hard, isn't it, to say?
It's very hard.
He can't play 18 games and he hasn't played 18 games in like 3 years. You know what I mean?
So
it is difficult. It is difficult to say that, but. I mean, even like a half and half. So say a 10 million guarantee and then like a 10 million in incentives.
Yeah.
Something like that. I'm sure he'd go for that. But again, it's like, as I say, you can't deny the quality of the player. The player's he's got the class. He's got what you need, and he'd be a great mentor for Coleman for even just for one season. No, he'd be really, really good for that angle. However, is his knee going to hold up? Is he really as healthy as he says he is, and that everybody else says he is? And that's a big question mark. And for 15, 20 mil, even though we can afford it, it's still 15, 20 mil that really you don't want to waste. But is it worthwhile taking that chance? And it could be if you're realizing that Coleman isn't ready yet to be the start of this season, or you can't rely on Lucas for a full season. You might get 2-3 games solid. That's all you're going to get because people, when they find out his move, he's got one blocking move, and once the Russians get onto that, that's when he start beating them. That's why he's not a genuine starter for a full season. That's why he's fit him in here and there, plug and play type of guy. But he's not like there's you for the season there at right or left tackle. It just doesn't. He's not consistent enough. He's only got one skill move. Do you know what I mean? Like type thing.
Yeah.
So that's why we need someone better.
So Richard Cameron says we won't miss Leno. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we will miss Leno, but it is what it is.
I don't think we missed Leno. I mean, Leno was average. You know what I mean?
He was solid, but what I mean is we miss someone to be in that position, don't we? That's what we're like.
Yeah,
it's tough going in with Cornelius Lucas and a rookie who could project better as a guard. That's the problem we've got, isn't it?
This is it, isn't it? And also, she's still got Braden Daniels as well, who we haven't even spoke about. We don't know how good this guy is. I mean, obviously, they faked injury to keep him off, so we didn't lose him.
Akinbulu and Trent Scott.
What's that?
Akinbulu and Trent Scott. Wow.
Yeah, man. Like the depth on the O-line isn't great, especially a tackle. I mean, you might think at center or guards. Okay, yeah, it's got okay depth, but the tackle positions is poor, man. I mean, I say I'm just hoping that Coleman's going to turn out to be the real deal, but. Why not get a Bakhtiari if he is fit? Because it's not like we can't afford him. We can afford him. So, and say 1 year prove it deal. Can you stay healthy? If you can stay healthy, it might even give you a longer deal after. So, and it'd be great for Coleman to learn behind someone like him. It really would.
So Deluxe put something in the chat. He said, if recent players no longer here who had benefited from this regime, not saying bring him back, but I think Cam Sims would have done it better under this staff. I probably agree with you there, and we need a big body receiver as well. So we do miss height in the receiving department. So, but yeah, Curl is the easy answer. You're right as well. Donovan Smith, and there's a rumor that the Chiefs may go for Leno.
But wow. Leno won't be available for all season.
No,
he's out for nearly a year with this hip injury that he's got. That's the reason why we cut him, because he's not going to be available for most of the season. So I can't see. I can't see the Chiefs getting rid of Smith and then getting Lennon for like maybe the last 3 games of the year. I mean, I can't see that.
Smith's holding out, isn't he? I don't know why he's holding out, but
obviously they're not paying him what he wants. That's the only reason why he holds out.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Scott G, I agree. Cam Sims, Jag. Yeah, I mean, 100%, man. Cam Sims was awful. He's just a 6'5" big body receiver, but can't catch. So, and got no speed, got nothing about him. So, forget him.
Yam's asked us a question. He sent us a question in. Thanks, Yam. You're in our chat, so shout out to you. He is at Yamstarch on X or Twitter. He said, asks, barring any major injuries to key players and positions, what do you consider to be an absolute travesty of a season versus a successful season?
Well, the absolute travesty would be if Daniels is a bust.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, you're playing the one season. And you see, try and compare it to who we just got rid of, Howell.
Howell,
yeah. If he has something like that where he's just getting creamed every single game and he's lost all his confidence, that'd be the absolute travesty for me, because that means your potential franchise quarterback is now going to be an absolute bust. And I can't deal. I cannot deal with another bust at 2. I just can't deal with it. So. We need him to work, but that's the biggest travesty for me, more than anything else. If the O-line can't protect him and he gets, I mean, I know you mentioned about you can't say injuries, but even if he's just playing badly and he's not he's not improving as the season goes on, that would be the travesty for me. Whereas the potential the best bit. Again, it's all about this year is mostly about the quarterback. Let's face it.
It has to be. It has to be. You're absolutely right. It has to be about him. It's have we finally made that answer that we've been after for so long to say, actually, yeah, we have got the guy at
so many busts at number 2, mate. We cannot deal with another bust at 2. We just can't deal with it. Like, we need to hit on this guy.
Successful season, then, Scouse. What would you say is a successful season?
Again, is he solidified now as, yes, this guy is the real deal. This guy's going to be the franchise quarterback for the next 15, 20 years. That's what I want to see. I mean, even better than a wins and losses first season. Like, don't get me wrong. You know, we all want to be in the playoffs. We all want to be around that in contention. That's what we want. That's what we want to see. But out of anything, as long as Daniels is looking the real deal, even if we don't make the playoffs, that's good enough for me. If that makes sense.
I agree with you. Brian says if he is a bust because we didn't help him enough, that's tragic. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. I mean, but hopefully with this coaching staff, you won't have that problem.
We're talking about tackles, man. We're talking about tackles. And, you know, Andrew Wiley's a turnstile. You know, you've got Coleman.
Just wait until Scouse gets revved up in October. You'll hear him. You'll hear him.
You'll hear me moan about him because that's just that's what he does. I mean, that's what he is. I can't expect him to be playing like an all-pro because he isn't an all-pro. You know what I mean? He isn't good enough to be an all-pro. And we can't expect him to play like that. But that annoys me because I want to see good play. It doesn't got to be all-pro play, but you got to see good play, good decisions. Because tackles do get beat. I know, tackles, especially when you're not like Trent Williams. You know, most tackles get beat once in a while. I mean, they all do. But
yeah, of course they do.
The thing is, it's like while he gets beat, game in, game out, nearly drive in, drive out. You know, so that's the reason why I really don't want him playing the tackle at all. But I don't want to move Cosme either because I want to keep Cosme at guard because he was outstanding last year. So. We'll have to see. But again, yeah, that's my biggest concern is the tackles. I'm hoping Coleman's the real deal, but you can never guarantee it. And let's face it, even all-pro left tackles now, struggled in their rookie year when he started.
Of course,
so
they did.
All of them do because it's a different game. It's a completely different game. The players you're taking on a different level. They are twice as big, twice as fast, twice as mean, and you've got to be up to that level. And and it's a big shock to the system when a rookie's going in there, when you're being left on an island on your own. Go and stop Micah Parsons. Go and stop these other guys, these elite pass rushers coming in.
The Myles Garrett's in the world.
Yeah, the Myles Garrett we're going to take on. Yeah, exactly. We're taking on those players this year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you got to expect them to get burned by those dudes. You got to expect that. So that's where the better coaching, better schemes, better play calling should make a difference because we've got better coaches who know actually what to actually do in a game.
Great question, Yam, because it sparked a lot of chat as well in our chat. So thank you for putting this in. Ian said, "Got to hope Daniels masks his bad play with his good play." And Scott G's came in and said, "Cosby won't get moved as he sucked at right tackle, but you don't try and fix one problem while making two." Completely agree. Yeah. He's our best right tackle. He is no doubt in my mind probably going to be an all-pro right guard. You know what I mean? Moving forward. He is unbelievable. He was the only one on the offensive line that I was like, yeah, that is absolutely stonewall set. There's nothing else. Everything else, I was like, well, just break it down, get rid of it all and start again. I mean, my head nearly fell off, as you could see when we were in round 2 and 3 going, are we actually going to get a tackle here? What is actually going on? Back to Yam's question, though. I mean, in terms of records, I mean, anything less than 4 wins is probably a bit of a disaster. But what I really want to see is just, as I've said quite a lot of the time, is competitiveness. If you can compete with these teams on the road, Monday night footballs, Thursday night footballs, you can compete with the Bengals, you can compete with the teams that you think, you know what, yeah, these are top level teams and we're competing with them. I don't mind if you get beat by a team that is genuinely better than you and has outfought you and outgunned you through tactical knowledge or having a better player. But as long as these players are giving absolutely everything to die for that shirt, which is what they look like they're doing in practice, and Dan Quinn will drill them to be like that, then I'm quite comfortable with it. I don't expect us to have a two-win season.
The thing is that
we'll see where we go.
Good quarterback play. Like I mentioned before about Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
Good quarterback play, seeing improvements. That normally leads to wins. If your quarterback plays well, it's very rare that if you have a quarterback who plays really well in a game, very rare that your team loses. Your defense has got to be dog shit to get beat if you're putting, say, 400 yards up, 3 touchdowns, and you still lose. You know what I mean? Because that's what you call a great game from a quarterback, wouldn't it? A 400-yard game, 3 touchdowns. That's like a wow. Like a really, really, really great game. And if you're conceding more points than that, well, then your defense is shit, and it's not the quarterback's fault. Whereas, I can't see Dayton doing that regularly, but as long as you can see, a lot of times you're going to win more than you're going to lose. If the quarterback has a solid game, a good game, a 300-yard game, 1 or 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, stuff like that, solid games. As long as he produces those on the regular, I think we'll win more games than not. So the wins will come as long as the quarterback can actually play well, and obviously the team around them can actually catch the ball. The whole team plays well. Yeah. And even not a great, unbelievable standard, but just a decent standard would be enough to get you some wins anyway, to get you that kind of, 6-7 wins, which is realistically, I think that's where we're going to be. But I like to drink the Kool-Aid, and I want to see us get 10 wins. So.
Same as me. So Rod Morrison, who's in our chat, he is at RodMore39721910. He asks, good afternoon, guys. So given DQ's comments regarding Forbes and having him do punt returns, is it likely he isn't going to be a cornerback in this team this year? I
mean, I still think he's going to be cornerback. I still think he's going to be cornerback. Would he be CB1 or 2 as in starting? We'll have to see. I think the jury's out there. I think at this moment, you're going to look at Mike Davis. I think he's going to be cornerback. And maybe St. Ghost. I mean, but it just depends on St. Ghost,
St. Ghost. Still love that.
Yeah, St. Ghost, because he gets burned. He's never there. So, yeah, man, I think it's nice to see that, to see what these other guys have got. Do they have the skill set to be a punt returner, a kick returner, those type things? The thing is, though, with me, what scares the hell out of me, imagine Forbes getting hit full pelt. I would kick a punt return. He'd be dead.
Yeah.
So snap him in off. I mean,
I know the kickoff rules and the punt. Well, punt hasn't changed, has it?
The punt is still the same. I think the
punt is still the same. Yeah.
So unless he's just doing continually, Dax Milne style, catch the ball and that's it, then forget putting Forbes there, because he will get drilled and he'll be done. He'd be out for the season with one tackle, because he's not built to be hit. End of the day, he's a corner. I mean, Darrell Green got away with it, but he was a different animal, a different beast completely. And even though you might say he was quite slim and stuff, but look at the pads they had then and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it was just different. But you can't use him on the regular for punt return. He's just not built for it, man. He's just not built for that.
Another question from Rod then that he said, so optical measuring that was used at MetLife last year is being trialed during the preseason. More accurate, quicker decisions on first down could be in this season or next season. Any thoughts? I looked into this a little bit more, and apparently the cameras and the chips that have been in footballs for about 6 years now. And they started off quite big. When I say quite big, they were like the size of a tag on the back of a t-shirt. And now they're actually a grain of rice size. They're very, very small. Oh, wow. So there's no difference in the weight and feel of a football. There's no difference in how it feels for a punt. How it feels for a punter to kick. You got me there. That's good. Or how it. I was gonna giggle a little bit, but I'm trying to be serious. It's not a serious show. We'll just giggle. It's good. But no. And also, looking back at it, it's like I agree with it. It's the chain gang. It eliminates the chain gang now. So they're saying now that we won't need the chain gang to determine where first downs are going to be. Now they're going to trial this out in the preseason, which will be very interesting. But I think this is also how next gen get their stats. How powerful it was, where the ball came from, what the trajectory was, how far downs and distances, all that. I'm all for technology, but you still got to have the backup just in case. So the chain gang ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
It doesn't always work. Look at VAR or VAR, as it's called over here in the UK. The technology itself is actually quite sound. It's the people using it absolutely dumb motherfuckers who can't use it properly. So if the head referee or whoever the hell is running the system, if he fucks up, then it's a big mistake there again, isn't it? So there's still going to be human error elements to all technology. So it'd be quicker decisions for first downs, quicker decisions for catches. Okay, yeah, I can live with that, but don't make it too automated, because a lot of the talking points about was that a catch or not a catch and those type things. So I don't want to take away too much of those things, I
agree with you. Scotty G, who's in our chat as well, Scott G, he is at 20G dog. He said, what is your reaction to hearing John Allen say that he likes to be the first guy in the building, but Jaden is beating him in? It was music to my ears to hear that about a young quarterback.
Yeah, so we mentioned a little bit before, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Why Daniels is ahead of the game, per se. And it's because of that. He is there first thing in the morning. I think he's there like 5 a.m.
5 a.m., yeah.
So he's there 5 a.m. He doesn't leave till I think it's like 11, 12 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? He gets 4 hours, comes back in again. I mean, and this is what he does every day. And he's done that in his LSU days.
Did that throughout LSU days, yeah, exactly.
So it's nothing new for him. He's just doing he's doing what he's doing. He's using every single minute he can to get where he wants to get. And you can tell he wants to be great. You can tell because those guys who do those 12-hour, 14-hour, 15-hour days every single day, even when they're not throwing the ball, shows them the mentality of a true leader.
Absolutely.
And I'm all for. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was at May ahead of Daniels, but the thing is, you can't argue with his work ethic, and you can't argue with this special stuff that he uses, this Oculus and
the Oculus VR headset, yeah,
whatever this fancy. I don't even know what it's called. The actual program he uses, but it's to get those mental reps in when he's not throwing.
But again, the team invested in that straight away and said, "Yeah, you want that? We'll buy you it."
And I bet that wasn't cheap. I bet they weren't going to sell that cheap to him, to Josh. You know what I mean? So, yeah, they're doing everything they can to make this guy succeed and make him feel comfortable. And I think you can see it in OTAs, but again, it's so early on, mate. I'm expecting ups and downs throughout the offseason. To be fair, ups and downs throughout the season as well. He's going to have good games. He's going to have bad games. Just kind of got to let him take his lumps and go to the next game, you know what I mean? Without destroying him in the media.
That's what you learn. That's what you learn for being a rookie. I mean, we've never played the game, so we don't really understand it. But we've played sport. We've been in high-level sport. We've been in teams before, in team sport. So I understand how it works. Leadership on the pitch, leadership off the pitch. You've got rah-rah guys and you've got guys who are quiet. And then it's about managing expectations as well. And I think that's probably the biggest thing we've got to talk about is how do we manage expectations? Because it's a rabid fan base. And yeah, you know what I mean? It's going to be one of them. Who's spotting the laser? Not sure.
So Scott G mentions to spot the ball and then turn on the first down laser to draw a line on the field.
Yeah, maybe.
And then he goes, who's spotting the ball? Who's spotting the laser?
True. Who's spotting the laser? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm with you.
And the sideline, G says.
All right, cool. I'm with you. But yeah, it depends. I mean, they might have to go cameras all the way down. They might have to go cameras like every 10 yards or whatever.
And again, that's going to cost a lot of corn for NFL guys. I mean, think about these franchises. Half the time, they don't even look after the grass that the players play on. You know what I mean? It's never mind to go, by the way, this Oculus system, or the system is this, but the optical system, whatever it is, there's the ridiculous. It's going to cost you $50 million to implement it into your stadium. They were like, "Fuck off! I'm paying $50 million." You know what I mean? They didn't pay $200,000 to look after the grass for the players. You know what I mean?
Very true. It's very true. You're very right. Yeah. Oh shit. Well, we'll get through these two.
What do you mean, Scott G String? What are you on about there? Scott is the laser guy. What are you on about there? Scott G String.
Maybe thinks you're a laser guy. We'll kind of tie these next two questions in together. John Taman at Bang Radio Hour. He is a host of the Bleeding Burgundy podcast, co-host with myself and Jesse Martin. Shout out to all of them. If you haven't subscribed, go and listen to their podcast. If you want a bit of a laugh, it is proper funny. Always a good crack, is John. If you can sit behind him at a football game, seriously, you'll have the best time of your life. I have never laughed for 3 hours in all my life when he sat behind me. Just his constant banter and chuttering and chuntering to himself. You know, what was he called? Chris Paul, wasn't it? Chris Paul. Chris Paul, did your mum even know? It's just howling every time. He is so funny. But he said the safety room is packed. Who is on the bubble already? And then Deluxe, who's in our chat as well, Deluxe sent this question and he said, the secondary is the most unpredictable part of the defense. What are your way too early predictions for top 2 outside corners, 1 nickel corner and 3 safeties for the big nickel? So I can go through. I've got it up here. So if you want me to look here.
I mean, I'll see if I can go without looking at the roster. But
go for it, man. Yeah, let's go for it.
I mean, for me at this moment, for me 2 outside corners, I'm going to be going for Davis and St. Ghost.
Mike Davis and St. Ghost for me. So left corner back is Mike Davis. Yeah. Right, Benjamin St. Juice.
I think Forbes would be like CB3 coming in, but the nickel, the nickel corner. It's going to be Sainistril, without a doubt.
Sainistril, 100%.
No, that's his position. He's going to be top draw. Trust me, this guy's going to be top draw. And then what was the other one? Was the safeties at the back? You mentioned 3 safeties.
Yeah, 3 safeties. Yeah,
3 safeties. So my 3 safeties I'd pick up at this moment to be like potential starters would be Chin. What's his name?
Forrest. Derek
Forrest,
Quan Martin,
and Quan Martin. They'd be my 3. Yeah. That'd be like kind of the of a chance of playing. But to answer John's one, who's on the bubble? To be fair, nearly all of them could be on the bubble. To be honest, because we haven't even mentioned Reeves. We've not mentioned
Christian Holmes,
and I mean, and these guys,
Butler's still there,
and they're all excellent for special teams. So you probably want to keep them for that, but you can't have 8 safeties, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the 2 that are on the bubble for me so far, I think the 2 that are on the bubble are James Pierre, who we've just signed not that long ago, and Tariq Castro Fields. They're probably bodies.
I mean, they'll be looking to make the practice squad. I mean,
I would say Christian Holmes is on the bubble. Genuinely, I think he's the kind of there. I think
Butler, potentially Reeves. Potentially, and that's only because of his injury.
Special teams. Yeah,
but he's also a safety, isn't he? Plays safety, so for me, it's like you got to kind of, don't get me wrong, excellent player on special teams, but what you got to think about is how's his knee.
True.
Very true. Coming back from ACL now again. Some people come back and they're perfectly fine.
I wasn't.
Yeah. But obviously, semi-pro compared to professional NFL athlete.
I know what you're saying, yeah. But
I see the point. But again, some people, just don't.
Thanks for joining us, Scott. See you soon, mate. Cheers, buddy.
It might even take 2. Might even take 2 years for him to get back to normal. Do you know what I mean?
It's never amazing coming off an ACL. It's hard. It's really, really hard. Shout out to Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. Hello, lads. He's put the GOAT is joining us, the GOAT of the podcasting world. Mate, shout out to you. Thanks for being with us. If you haven't subscribed to the Burgundy Zone, please go and give it a follow, a like, and a subscribe. They're amazing guys. We love being with them in September, and I can't wait to see you again, Kyle and Mike. I don't know if Reed will join us this year. I don't think he will. He's a bit of a hermit.
I might start calling St. Ghost. I might start calling him St. Reed because Reed just never shows up. Do you know what I mean? Like he's never there.
Yeah. Good shout. So going back to your starting 3. So your 2 outside corners were
Davis and St. Ghost.
Davis and St. Juice, and then your nickel corner was Sainistril, and then
the 3 safeties were Quan Martin,
Forrest, and Forest.
And
Yeah,
Chin,
that's. I don't disagree with that at all. But I do think, as John's asked, Christian Holmes probably on the bubble. I don't want him to be, but obviously it's going to be really difficult.
To be fair, any player that these guys didn't sign themselves are on the bubble, really, no matter who they are.
They've all got to prove it. They've all got to prove it,
man, or they all could be cut. There's maybe 3 or 4 guys you might go 100% safe no matter what, and that's because of their contracts. But besides that, everybody can be technically on the bubble here because, say, it's a totally new staff, totally new team. So we'll have to see.
We'll finish it off, Scouts, with our final question, which is always a good one. And whenever he puts a question in, we do love him. Miss him over there in Canada, Mike. Mike says, when we put in 40 points on the hapless Giants' first home game of the season, sending the legendary British followers home happy, will you then join me in thinking 12-5 season?
12-5 again, Mike.
12-5. Was it not 13 last year he was going for? I don't know. I can't remember.
It'd be nice. Don't get me wrong. I can't see us putting 40 up on the Nats, but no, the Gnats, no Nats. Yeah,
the Gnats.
Giants. Yeah. But I can't see put 40 up, but it would be nice to see that though. It would really be nice to see them just get destroyed. First game of the home season, but yeah, man. To be fair, if we did put 40 up and we did win convincingly, I think I probably would start drinking the Kool-Aid, Mike, and I probably would start thinking 12 wins, just because I'm stupid like that. But yeah, man, I can't see it. Unfortunately, mate.
Hey, as long as we keep the streak going,
yeah, as long as
I don't mind.
As long as you win, nice. But if you get 40+ points and then actually hammer them, then I'm all for it, and I'll join you at 12-5 then, Mike, if we do that. All right.
Yeah, definitely. But anything else, Scouts, from you, mate, that you want to go through? Because it's supposedly been a quiet week, but we've had the front office hires, we've had OTAs, we've had loads going on.
Every week, there's something for us really going on.
There's always something for us,
another player added, or So yeah,
I know.
It's nice, man. It's nice for us because there's always something to talk about, even if it's only small bits. But the questions make the difference, So
they do, and thank you everyone for being with us. Honestly, we really appreciate it. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Can't thank you enough. We just said before, it's an hour where we talk shit. It's 2 British blokes who know a bit about the team, know a bit about football, but we're passionate as every other fan that's out there. And if it weren't for the people in the chat, genuinely, we wouldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? If one person listens, it's an absolute bonus. But yeah, shout out to Valiant, who gave us a lot of love. Loey, who's been in the chat, Darren, Burrows, Scotty G, Kyle, Deluxe, Brian, Yam, Ian, Rod, Richard Cameron, everybody who's been in there, everyone who put a question in, John Taman, Tim Towner put a question in as well, Deluxe, Canada Mike. Thank you all for doing that. We really appreciate you being on it. Tim's, I did do Tim's, yeah. We answered it kind of with the hires.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, man. I wasn't trying to, but I wanted to give him his flowers as well for putting it in. So, man. Thanks everyone for being with us. We'll be back next week. Bright and breezy, obviously on earlier. I will try my best to get there, but obviously, this week it was just a bit of a shit show with work and stuff. So I apologise for the delay in getting it on there. But yeah, man, thanks for being with us. We have enjoyed being with us. Another episode done of the 1 Point Safety Show, Scouts, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye.